So here we are inside of Maya 2017. I want to give you guys just a general, real quick overview of the general UI layout when you first open it up. So at the top here, we can see we have a few different menus to select from, like File, Edit, Create, Select, Modify. These are some of the more menus that we'll visit the most inside of Maya. One thing I want you to notice is that there's a lot more menu options here, like Mesh, Edit Mesh, Mesh Tools, Mesh Display. But what you want to notice is that we have this drop-down tab right here that says Modeling Currently. If I click this arrow, I can change to a different kind of set of tools depending on the actions that I'm doing. So what you'll notice is if I switch this to Rigging, that the option menus at the top of the screen have actually changed. So if I switch it back to modeling, I get different drop downs with different tools specific to that action. So if I'm doing just rendering, I want to be on the rendering tab, which will give me all my rendering tools and options. So I'm going to switch it back to modeling for now. The next things are we have saving, loading, undoing, as we would expect. We have different selection by hierarchy or type. We have snapping tools. We have our rendering and our material editor. The next thing we have in Maya is the shelf. The shelf is a collection of shortcuts. So all the things you see here under this polygon tab, these are all shortcuts for creating objects or editing objects. We have different tabs or shelves designed to hold shortcuts for the respective kind of action. So for animation versus sculpting or rigging. Now down the side, we have our different selection types. So normal selection for drag. We have a circle select, painting, moving, rotating, scaling tools as you would expect in any other 3D software. Below that, we have our different viewport selections. So the first one makes our single viewport. Below that, if we click it, this makes a quad view. And the one below that is a side-by-side. If we click back on our top view here, what you'll notice is we can also right-click on any one of these. Right-clicking on one of them will allow us to pick which view we might want to have as well. And finally, the last option here is the outliner, which is kind of showing the hierarchy of all the objects in our scene. So right now we have multiple cameras and some default kind of things set up, and we'll get into that later. So I'm going to click that button again to turn it off. Over on the side here, by default, you usually see the channel box. This is going to be a way for us to edit our meshes and our models. We also, at the very top, there's a few buttons up here. You'll see one is blue right now. That is the actual channel box. So if we click on that icon, left click, we can turn it off. And then you'll see that the modeling toolkit was also enabled. So again, we can click it to turn it off. At any point we want to bring them back, we can just click. So this first one being the channel box, the next one being the tools settings. So this is an option if we have something like the move tool selected, just to change its different options. And then next to that is the attribute editor, which kind of ties right back into the channel box. And finally, we have some rigging, so character control tools, and the modeling toolkit, which the modeling toolkit is a way to get to some of our modeling options a little faster. So in case we don't want to use the shelf or other shortcut keys, it's a way to kind of streamline that process. Below that, inside the channel box, we have display layers. So later we'll be able to assign different meshes to layers so that we can turn them off, make them visible or invisible, make them into references. It's pretty nice. And then below that, to kind of close out, we have our timeline sliders and adjustments. And also we can kind of see here a tooltip area that's very useful. If you ever hover over anything at the very bottom corner here, it will display the tooltips. And that at a high level is just the kind of the general UI inside of Maya 2017.